and I'll continue talking. You can click on it at any time. This screen will pause, and you can return here later if you want to hear what I have to say about this. First of all, we have never had anything like this in science during my lifetime. Maybe the ancients did, but they lacked the scientific equipment to know what's near and what's coming. You can't have this many objects in space near Earth without some collisions. The moon could get hit, the Earth could get hit, and Mars, Venus, or Jupiter could get hit. We saw what happened when the Shoemaker-Levy comet was pulled in by Jupiter with a force that broke it into several pieces, and the impact made splashes as large as the Earth. If anything hits the Earth and makes a splash as big as the Earth, you can put your head between your legs and kiss your sweet ass goodbye. Life is over if one of these lands on your head or near you, because all that kinetic energy will turn into heat and melt sand, turning it into glass. We've had earthquakes, volcanoes, and thousands of other facts, all till today. I knew about the Shoemaker-Levy comet, and I have felt for a long time that it was related to the arrival of Planet X. But I'm not sure if I even mentioned it, because I had so much other evidence that I missed some. And that list quickly went to 54 facts soon after it was put up on YouTube. I was planning to do a part 2 to it, but the harsh criticism from people who like to kill the messenger discouraged me, and I went into hibernation for months making no Planet X videos. I find this stuff, I share it, and if you want to kill the messenger, you can do your own research and draw your own conclusions. I think I've been very careful not to draw any conclusions, and so I said many times that I'm not sure there is a Planet X, but I do see a lot of evidence to suggest that Planet X is real, and this Thor News report on near-Earth asteroids recently discovered certainly is more evidence that something is near and it's carrying a lot of junk. Did we ever have a comet that will be perhaps up to 15 times the brightness of the moon? That's what Bruce Williams reported. And that's coming from the Nazi Nightly News, where we get all our daily propaganda. The media is state-controlled as it is in any other Nazi dictatorship, and this is what they're allowing us to know. Maybe they get some sort of thrill from leaking clues that we're all dead meat. We had first-hand testimony, would allow such testimony, but some of you crybabies don't want to die, so you flatly rejected his contribution. Why don't you die like a man and stop whining like a little kid? I didn't bring you Planet X, and this eyewitness has valuable information for you. But you're so busy whining and hitting people because you're too chicken to die that you can't think clearly. Over 1 million people have now seen that video, and it seems that all the crybabies are grown men. Today I bring you new information. It's not my information. It was offered to me by YouTube, and I rose to the bait, watched it, and found it quite interesting. Now I want you to know about it, and if you want to kill me because I shared an interesting video, get on with it. If I'm dead and Planet X is real, you're still gonna die if this debris falls to Earth and lands on your head. Pay close attention to the size of this debris and then do the physics. I discovered that they can travel 10 kilometers per second. 5 times as fast is more than 5 times the energy, friend. The glow of that impact will give you a suntan in about 1/1,000,000th of a second. And for the next 2 minutes you will be burnt to a crispy cinder, and you're not going home. You're toast, literally. I don't even think they will find your body, if you want me to be blunt about it. No grave marker for you. 12 seconds into the video, Thor News says we have a lot of big near-Earth asteroids. Is he telling the truth? You haven't seen the video, so how would you know? Look at the evidence he presents. He's not typical of those who make wild guesses. He has them listed, and he shows the data in tables, rows, and columns. I like his clueless, if it makes you feel safer. Put your head in the sand. Then you don't have to kill the messenger. If you're a big crybaby, don't even waste your time watching this video. He has the name of each asteroid, the close approach date, the number of astronomical units listed as AU, and another number which I don't recognize. It's LD. No idea what LD means. But some of you are quite smart and experienced in astronomy. Tell us, and I'll make an annotation on the screen so others can learn from your input of scientific terminology and acronyms, and I'll give you credit for it. The scary part is he has the diameter of each, and he discusses this openly and frighteningly. He also has the velocity, and you might remember that I guessed that they might travel 2 kilometers per second, and then paper ready, because you're going to squirt like an Elmer's glue dispenser when a heavy truck runs over it. None of these asteroids is traveling 2 kilometers per second. None. Many are traveling faster than 10 kilometers per second. And if you know how to do the math to convert kinetic energy to heat, be my guest. This is one fact I don't need to know. I know that if one of the asteroids hits Earth, it's going to make a big splash when it hits the ocean. And do you know what it's going to do if it hits dense rock? It's also going to make a big splash. Because recall the first time I read that it doesn't matter if an asteroid hits the water or solid ground, and I was floored. You might think the oceans are deep, but water on the Earth is a very, very thin layer compared with the 4,000 miles to the center of the Earth. The deepest ocean trench is 27,000 feet or 29,000 feet, and a mile is 5,280 feet, so that's about 5 miles. Compare that with 4,000 miles. It's nothing. That's why it doesn't matter if the asteroid hits land or sea. If that asteroid is big enough, it's going to splash out all the water and then turn the sand on the bottom of the ocean into glass and boil all the water nearby. That's the truth. You're not going to hear it on the Nazi nightly news. Thor news maybe, he'll even call you baby. I think he means all you crybabies. You don't want to die, you want your mommy. 5 of the 13 that are visible on the screen at 15 seconds into the video are traveling over 10 kilometers per second. So if you thought I was exaggerating that some asteroids move at the rate of 10 kilometers per second, you will see his figures and know that I told the truth. My guess was 2 kilometers per second, and I read about 10 kilometers per second. And now, over 1/3 of these new asteroids are moving much swifter than I had read. I went outside last night to roll up the window shades, and the night sky was so bright that I took it for about half a second, and it was burned up. I was looking slightly south. Orion is slightly south, and this was west of Orion, and the length of the streak was no larger. The distance in terms of the Orion's belt, Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka, it was about 3 times that distance. The meteor, admittedly, was very, very small. Some wannabe astronomers will tell me that it was the size of a walnut. Okay, whatever. I didn't come here to argue with pseudoscientists about the size of a meteor I saw. I will concede that it was very small, okay? Are you happy? If you want to force me to accept a walnut for size, okay, I surrender. Kill me if you want to. A walnut is fine. It was the size of a walnut. Now, what size are the objects that Thor News is talking about? The first one on the list is 2013 RQ-43, and it has a diameter. Are you sitting down? Go sit down. No, you can't stand. We just finished arguing about the size of a meteor, which lit up the sky near Orion, And the pseudoscientists forced me to accept that this meteor was only the size of a walnut. And now I'm going to give you the diameter of an asteroid, which is much bigger. And I think you better sit down for this. This is going, because you're going to squirt like a big truck ran over you when I tell you the size of this asteroid. A meter is about 39 inches, right? Okay, it's not a meter. Are you relieved? You better sit down. How can I put this? If this object enters our atmosphere at night, you can turn off the lights. You won't need any lights. Even if it doesn't hit the Earth, it will turn night into day. Bruce Williams says that Ison will be up to 15 times as bright as the moon in November of 2013. A German man said they told him on the news it's November 8th, 2013. That's a month from today. Now, if he's wrong, are you going to attack me? Next time I won't share what I hear. You can do your own research. Back to 2013 RQ-43. If the meteor I saw was the size of a walnut, how big is this asteroid? It's 48 meters. It's the width of a football field. 48 meters is on the low side. Actually, Thor News gave us a range. 110 meters is on the high side. And that's longer than a football field. Where do you want it, land or sea? It's traveling very slowly, so relax. Only 7.45 kilometers per second. Phoenix to Tucson is about 140 miles. I think you multiply by 1.6 to get kilometers. What's that, about 224 kilometers? It takes me 3 hours to drive that distance. This asteroid would do that distance in 30 seconds. I don't want rocks the size of a football field coming at me at 7.45 kilometers per second. That's too fast. There's too much energy in RQ-43. I think I'm not going to work on that day. I'm going to hide under the blankets and cry out for my mommy like you crybabies do. I think rocks as big as a football field should be banned. The Nazis should regulate them to death like they do all of our businesses. I guess with Obamacare. 70% of us didn't want a government takeover of health care, and now that it's law, 85% of us are opposed. But the Nazis don't care what you people want. They want to get us all chipped, and that's their agenda. Maybe one of these rocks will land on the White House and get rid of this puppet, and we can start over with a new rigged Constitution. It gives people too many rights and ties the hands of an oppressive government, and nobody wants that. People want slavery and dictatorship. Now pick one before I pull the trigger. You know, if there was a God, you would think that he would drop one of these asteroids on the bad guys who want nuclear war over a country that is no threat to us. But there isn't any God. How could there be a God? All you people are waiting for God to save you from the burning building, the flood, or this asteroid the size of a football field that can travel 140 miles in 30 seconds. God isn't coming, and the asteroid has a better chance of landing on the good people of this country than on any of the bad guys. If one of these asteroids falls to Earth, it will be devastating. I saw a video on YouTube. A young man was abducted by aliens who warned him that an asteroid is going to strike the Earth around the Caribbean islands, and they came to warn us through him. Let's kill the aliens for delivering bad news, shall we? All the crybabies want to insult this poor guy for being abducted and receiving this warning of an impact by an asteroid. I'm sure of one thing. If an asteroid hits the Earth, even if it's only the size of a football field, if it's traveling at 300 miles per hour,
from the Gulf of Mexico. on October 5, 2014. We found these observations of Arbota and Helion to be most impressive because they were captured from different buoys thousands of miles apart. However, what comes next puts a whole new spin on the word interesting. According to the guides, the planet Nibiru was first observed from the Gulf of Mexico on October 4, 2014, then again by the same buoy on October 6, 2014, and yet once again from the same buoy on October 8th. Now that you've seen these images, you might be doing what many Americans do when they look at a picture of a UFO. They just say, "I can't believe my eyes." If so, keep the following in mind. When the time comes that everyone can see these objects with their own eyes, regardless of the chemtrail aerosols, the fear that will clutch at the throats of many will not be because of what they see in the sky. Rather, it will be the realization that they are not prepared for what they see in the sky. And being prepared is really what it's all about when you consider to the guides the principal causality of the first event on the tribulation timeline, the Winter of Ash, is a galactic superwave. This phenomenon is well described by physicist Dr. Paul LaViolette in his book Earth Under Fire, and it is fully explained in our previous video where Nemesis was observed in May of 2013. We used these two reference points to create a rudiment.
See estimates of where Nemesis will be at the end of this year on the opposite side of the Sun. This explains why we cannot see it at this time. However, Nemesis will come out from behind the Sun as it reaches its point of perihelion, that point in its orbit where it comes closest to our own Sun. So with this background in mind, we're ready to take on the question: why are we not seeing the Planet X system in front of us and behind us each year? With that, let's return to our deep space view of our solar system. Like an airplane that flies on 3 axes, the Planet X system essentially does the same. While it is bobbing up and down, so to speak, it is also orbiting around the Sun as well, no differently than any of the other planets in our system. Again, remember that the guides have told us that the Planet X system moves through our skies like nothing else we've ever seen before. The bobbing up and down motion is straightforward, but in terms of moving sideways in orbit around the Sun, we need to look at the number of days it takes for the Planet X system to orbit our Sun, as it bobs up and down through our solar system. Let's begin with Earth, with third world nation. However, the guides also tell us that no nation on Earth, no matter how wealthy or advanced, will be able to escape the cataclysms to come. And with that, now comes the really bad news. In being in it for the species, the guides tell us that when we see this alignment of the Planet X system, Nemesis will have reached its point of perihelion.
Will unfold to include a pole shift. Simply put, these events will brutalize us and our world. So the question now is, what do we do about it? Because when we do see Nemesis at perihelion, there will only be 2 kinds of people in the world: those who are prepared and those who are not. In my postscript, which I began researching Planet X in 2001 and published my first article on the topic of Planet X in January 2002. Over the years, I and my fellow researchers have always treated the topic as a threshold risk issue. However, with the release of Being in It for the Species and this video, that has changed. We at Yowza.com now view Planet X as a clear and present danger. Therefore, the conversation about it has changed. These comets are fast movers, and if they keep their distance, they can avoid being captured by the gravity of our own Sun, at which point they fly right out the other side of our solar system, back into the pitch-black darkness of deep space, never to be seen again. Ergo, these rogue comets are what you might call the celestial freight trains. They've got a single-minded focus as to where they're going, and they just plow straight through. However, the Planet X system does not orbit our Sun like a predictable freight train. Rather, it orbits our Sun much like an airplane, on 3 axes: longitudinal, lateral, and vertical. Consequently, its movements are far more complex. In fact, in Being in It for the Species, the guides tell us that it moves through the skies like nothing we've ever seen before. To help us put that in context, we need to see how the Planet X system orbits our own Sun relative to our own view of the Sun and the Planet X system. To do that, we must begin at the
ecliptic. Begins at a point in the very center of the Sun, and then stretches out in a concentric ring to the 12 constellations of the zodiac. Using the observation reports we've published in previous Yowza.com videos, let's now examine them one by one, and then we'll see how the Planet X system moves through our own solar system. This will be important because a common question we hear is, why is it we do not see the Planet X system behind us each year as well as in front of us? To answer this question, we first need to look at the bodies which comprise the Planet X system. At the core of the Planet X system is the Nemesis brown dwarf star. It is 56 times the size of Earth and has the mass of 171,000 Earths. The largest planet in the Planet X system is Nibiru, as it is known by the inhabitants of this system. It is 6 times the size of Earth, and its mass is also 6 times that of Earth. It has a moon we named Ferrata, in memory of astronomer Carlos Muñoz Ferrada. In size and mass, Ferrata is comparable to our own moon. The second largest planet in the Planet X system is Helion, as it is known by the inhabitants of the system. It is 3.5 times the size of Earth, but as a bright gaseous planet, its mass is only 2.5 times that of the Earth. It also has a moon we named Harrington in memory of the U.S. naval astronomer Robert Sutton Harrington. In size and mass, Harrington is comparable to our own moon. The smallest of the 3 planets is Arbota.
When the time comes that everyone can see these objects with their own eyes, regardless of the chemtrail aerosols, the fear that will clutch at the throats of many will not be because of what they see in the sky. Rather, it will be the realization that they are not prepared for what they see in the sky. And being prepared is really what it's all about when you consider what happens. Guides, the principal causality of the first event on the tribulation timeline, the Winter of Ash, is a galactic superwave. This phenomenon is well described by physicist Dr. Paul Laviolette in his book Earth Under Fire, and it is fully explained in our previous video, Yowza.com Volcano Update Number 1. Therefore, in this program, we'll move ahead on the tribulation timeline to the first 3 events related solely to the flyby of the Planet X system through the core of our own system, beginning with the covert visitations which happen after the Winter of Ash. Following that will be the Deep Impact event, which we will explain in depth in this segment with specific regards to the impactor origins, the impact itself, and the consequences of all that. Following this, we will show you the perihelion view of the Sun and the Planet X system. To do that, we must begin at the ecliptic. This blue line stretching across the screen represents the ecliptic, which in a manner of speaking could be referred to as the Sun's equator, or more accurately as the plane of our solar system. Imagine this blue line representing the ecliptic.
Yowza.com videos. Let's now plot the movement of Nemesis, the brown dwarf at the core of the Planet X system, relative to our own Sun and the ecliptic as seen from Earth. Here's where our estimate of Nemesis was in 2010, based on the observations of Nibiru from 2010 to 2013. And here we see where Nemesis was observed in May of 2013. We used these 2 reference points to create a rudimentary orbital path based on the fact that Nemesis is in a 3,600-year-long elliptical orbit around our Sun. And here we see estimates of where Nemesis will be at the end of this year on the opposite side of the Sun. This explains why we cannot see it at this time. However, Nemesis will come out from behind the Sun as it reaches its point of perihelion, that point in its orbit where it comes closest to our own Sun. So with this background, south into the outbound leg of its orbit. From this time forward, events far worse than the Deep Impact event will unfold, to include a pole shift. Simply put, these events will brutalize us and our world. So the question now is, what do we do about it? Because when we do see Nemesis at perihelion, there will only be 2 kinds of people in the world, those who are prepared and those who are not. In my postscript, which follows,
always treated the topic as a threshold risk issue. However, with the release of Being in It for the Species and this video, that has changed. We at Yowza.com now view Planet X as a clear and present danger. Therefore, the conversation about it has changed from, will it come in our lifetime, 2. How will we survive it? Keep in mind, many of us will, so the consequences are much larger than mere survival itself. Humanity will survive this flyby as it has others in the past. Then we will rebuild and go to the stars. Therefore, the transcendent issue is not survival. It is how we go to the stars after the tribulation, being in it for the species. The guides give us very specific descriptions of the various bodies in the Planet X system. In this program, we will examine them one by one, and then we'll see how the Planet X system moves through our own solar system. This will be important because a common question we hear is, why is it we do not see the Planet X system behind us each year as well as in front of us? To answer this question, we first need to look at the bodies, which comprise the Planet X system. At the core of the Planet X system is the Nemesis brown dwarf star. It is 56 times the size of Earth and has the mass of 171,000 Earths. The largest planet in the Planet X system,
in memory of astronomer Carlos Muñoz Ferrada. In size and mass, Ferrada is comparable to our own moon. The second largest planet in the Planet X system is Helion, as it is known by the inhabitants of the system. It is 3.5 times the size of Earth, but as a bright gaseous planet, its mass is only 2.5 times that of the Earth. It also has a moon we named Harrington in memory of the U.S. naval astronomer Robert Sutton Harrington. In size and mass, Ferrada is comparable to our own moon. The second largest planet in the Planet X system is Helion, as it is known by the inhabitants of the system. It is 3.5 times the size of Earth, but as a bright gaseous planet, its mass is only 2.5 times that of the Earth. It also has a moon we named Harrington in memory of the U.S. naval astronomer Robert Sutton Harrington. In size and mass, Harrington is comparable to our own moon. The smallest of the 3 planets is Arbota, as it is known by the inhabitants of the system. It is 2.5 times the size of Earth, and likewise its mass is also 2.5 times that of Earth. Arbota is in a very fast orbit around Nemesis relative to Nibiru and Helion, and has no moon.